Diezani Alison-Madueke, Nigeria's former oil minister and once the most powerful woman in the country's energy sector, is facing bribery charges at the Southwark Crown Court. British prosecutors allege she accepted luxury benefits and payments in exchange for awarding the lucrative oil contracts while in office, a claim she strongly denies. The case is being watched closely in Nigeria and beyond, seen as a landmark test of global anti-corruption enforcement and whether powerful political figures can still be held accountable years after leaving office. Senior International Correspondent Afua Hagan is at Southwark Crown Court, bringing you the details, the latest from the trial. Hi, Afua, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here. Do give us the details about what's happening currently right now in court.
Well, court has been risen since this morning. There was a delay in the court proceedings starting this morning because of a problem with the Wi-Fi in the building. However, we did hear from a few of the 8 members of the King's Council of the prosecution as to some details in the case, whether all the court documents had been sent not only to the judge but other members of the team, and also mentioning a couple of the other defendants that we can expect to hear from over the next 10 to 12 weeks in this case against Alison-Madueke. Like I said, court has risen at the moment. Madueke herself actually left court during that break because of the problem with the Wi-Fi for the start of proceedings. But at the moment, it's just making sure that all the court documents are in place. And like I said, mentioning some of the defendants that we can hope to hear from over the next 10 to 12 weeks.
Okay. Well, Afua, we'll keep you on standby. We'll still come back to you. I'm being told that I have with me Eze Onyekbere. He's a lawyer. Eze, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us on this conversation. So we're wondering, on what legal basis is a UK court exercising jurisdiction over alleged acts committed while Diezani was here in Nigeria as a minister in the cabinet?
Some of the allegations of corruption did not just happen in Nigeria. Some of the companies involved are registered in Britain and in some other countries. So this is a transnational crime that is not just limited to Nigeria. Therefore, if British companies, in collaboration with Madam Alison-Madueke, are laid to have violated British laws, the British government has every right to bring the suspects, particularly now that the suspect is even within the jurisdiction of British courts. So there are a lot of grounds upon which the British courts can assume jurisdiction to try matters such as this one.
Okay. So what does this mean for Nigeria's long-running fight against corruption?
Well, for me, justice delayed is justice denied. We are discussing corruption that should have happened before 2015. And here we are in 2026, 11 years after they left office. Well, let's say better late than never. But I don't see so much impact because time has so much elapsed that even we are being told that some of the recoveries that we have done in previous years were also mismanaged by those in the corridors of power. So in essence, it's good that we get some money back to solve existential problems back home, but it's been overdue. I mean, this story has been long in the public domain that some people will even be asking, oh, have we not concluded this trial? We are just about to start it.
Afua, I hope you're still with us. I'm wondering whether you agree. Does this seem like we are beginning to export our judicial cases outside of the country?
I don't think it necessarily means that. But like we have had, this case does have some jurisdiction in the United Kingdom because some of the transactions are thought to have taken place in the United Kingdom and using British financial institutions. And so therefore, it's up to the UK government to bring people to book. And the National Crime Agency were made aware of this. And this is why it's taking place in the United Kingdom. Of course, Alison-Madueke has also lived in the United Kingdom for a long time. I think what we are seeing is the British government wanting to perhaps make this a test case on how they fight international corruption where it takes place on British soil. And also the fact that it's a fact that powerful political figures, even when they're out of office, can still be prosecuted outside their home countries for things that they did whilst they were in office also. And this is a real high-profile attempt by the United Kingdom to make sure that that happens.
Afua, this is a very strange story because she was celebrated while she was here in Nigeria as a trailblazer for women in global energy. So I'm wondering how this trial reshapes that legacy.
Absolutely. You know, she was a woman who broke a glass ceiling in a very male-dominated industry. But this trial really complicates that legacy. She was a first. She was a trailblazer. She broke glass ceilings. But now she's associated with one of the continent's biggest corruption scandals. And I think it's a reminder that representation and accountability need to go hand in hand. Yes, she was the first. Yes, she was a trailblazer, but it doesn't mean that she is above accountability and above being brought to book for the crimes that have been leveled against her and that she has been accused of. And of course, we do have to say that Alison-Madueke has denied all the accusations against her.
Now, Ms. Alison-Madueke, even with extradition, how could a conviction in London affect her assets and legal exposure here in Nigeria?
Well, Nigeria and Britain have a long history of collaboration in the justice sector. If she's eventually convicted, even if she has assets in Nigeria which require to be, to be returned to the States, I think that we have a treaty obligations with Britain, and it is in our interest to cooperate with Britain to make sure that those assets are returned to Nigeria, anyone that is foreign, but we are not going to sell the Nigerian assets to hand it over to the British government. Rather, it's the other way around. So the Nigerian government will be too happy to collaborate to make sure that the assets that properly belong to the public are returned to the public domain.
Okay. Afua, another question for you. Does this case risk overshadowing the broader issue of women's representation in leadership roles?
There is a risk of that, yes. But actually, I think this should be framed as an issue of accountability rather than gender. Now, one individual's alleged actions cannot be used to tar a whole gender with that brush. We don't do that with men, and we absolutely should not do that with women. I think what this does say is that no matter who you are, across a sector, across industry, if you have done something wrong, you will be held accountable for that, whether you're a woman or whether you are a man. So I think we should take this away from gender politics and make this much more about accountability whilst in high office or in government.
Yeah, well, easy to say, but at least let's try. Mr. Eze, final question for you. If convicted, how might this case reshape future cross-border prosecutions of former African public officials?
Well, if eventually she's convicted, it will have laid a very good precedence, because what we have here in Nigeria is more or less like simply recovering assets. And the only time somebody was convicted, I think that was Alame case. He escaped justice from Britain. So in as much as I'm not trying to preempt the judgment or the trial, if she's guilty, the British courts will be able to tell us in the next couple of months. And at the end of the day, it will be good if the guilty are brought to justice. But if she's not guilty, definitely she will be exonerated, and then the course of justice will take its due process.
Okay. Mr. Alison-Madueke, Afua, thank you very much. We'll continue to come to you two for further discussions on the matter. Thank you indeed.